The three on Mortal Kombat that was fighting for Mortal Kombat, all three of them lived. That was Liu Kang.
I remember that, but this was, what was the name of that show with Big Mom?
I have no idea. I didn't watch a lot of TV, just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You used to watch a bunch.
Yeah, well, I used to.
Well,
You're broadcasting your
Go back
butt.
once you're too far from here. Why moved your purse back? Why do you need to reach back behind and get and bring it forward? Need water. You give you water. You do want to give me one. Respect you. And y'all mark number 216 for invitation. I think I've done that right. It ain't too late, I know that. 216.
Okay.
Now, I think the first song is 72, but I lost my songs. Man, it ain't in here. I got wrong book. Which is always a problem. All these books look the same anymore. I don't understand that.
They're all exactly the same.
That's probably why they look the same.
Well, you get used to certain ones, so.
And it's just this is what I do. I know if I look at back and got songs. Yeah, there you are. Yep, 72 is the first song.
72?
72 will be the first song. 75 is for scripture.
It's just starting to sound like an auction.
That's going to be 72, 74, 75, Mark 2:16.
So.
They all right here together.
So to the highest bidder.
I couldn't get the price up. Let me just-
Eventually. You off?
Probably. My brother Joe, you get the opening prayer. Brother Charles, you get the closing prayer.
Thank you.
Anybody need to go to something? First song is 72. Let's turn number 72.
In all fairness, it's been several.
I know. I get confused. Hey, I'm allowed to. Maybe not. Well, I'm supposed to, but I still go. Pressing on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining every day. Still praying as I onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. My heart has no desire to stay where doubts arise and fears dismay. Though some may dwell where these abound, my prayer, my aim is higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. I want to live above the world, though Satan's darts at me are hurled. For faith has called the joyful sound, the song of saints on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand but faith on heaven's tableland. A higher plane that I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. I want to scale the utmost high and catch a gleam of glory bright. But still I pray till I'm not found. Lord, lead me on to higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Now, before opening prayer, we'll sing number 74. One page. No, same page. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. Early in the morning, our song shall rise to thee. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God over all and blessed eternally. Holy, 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 all the saints adore thee, casting down their golden crowns around the crystal sea. Cherubim and seraphim falling down before thee. Who was and are and evermore shall be. Holy, 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 though the darkest hides thee, though the eye of sinful man thy glory may not see, only thou art holy. There is none beside thee, perfect in power and love and purity. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. All of thy works shall praise thy name in earth and sky and sea. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God over all and blessed eternally.
Let's pray. And Lord, most gracious Heavenly Father, once again, thank you for this privilege we have to worship you. We ask, dear Heavenly Father, that all things done this night be in accordance to your will, pleasing in your sight. We pray, dear Heavenly Father, for those who are unable to attend this evening for whatever reason. Help us to say or do whatever we can to encourage them to return. Be with our nation, dear Heavenly Father, as we fight this virus that's going around and taking so many lives. Help us to rise above it and grow strong from it. Bless the minister, help him to say those things that he studied, those things that will encourage us, inspire us to grow stronger and better for you. Through your son, we pray.
All right, Mark 2:16 for invitation. And we're gonna sing number 75. I'm out of the words on that song. I know it.
I didn't know that. He's not saying anything.
Well, on the second verse, I went down to the third. Why did it from second to third? I knew the words. This third verse is what matching the second verse. Second verse when I posted down.
Actually, he got away with it.
I didn't do that.
It is humble, so.
I know, he wouldn't have, he wouldn't have.
Time is filled with transition. No longer come who can stand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Trust in Him who will not leave you. Whatsoever years may bring, if my earthly friends forsake, still more closely to Him cling. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. When your journey is completed, if to God you have been true, fair and bright the home in glory, your enraptured soul will view. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Oh, to God's unchanging hand.
We continue in our study of Proverbs tonight. And this, like we talked about the difference between wise and foolish last week, tonight we're talking about the difference in loud and quiet. Now, it's 79 degrees in Ellaville. I just got a message. Just thought I'd let you know. Do you remember this? I mean, we were really upset about this. Now, Best Buy took out an ad that said, remember to turn your computers off before midnight on December the 31st, 1999. I remember where I was. My computer was on. We were here celebrating our New Year's Eve service that night. And I remember when New Year's came, we were standing around fire. And Dad said something silly like, when midnight comes, that fire is going to go out. You know, that happened. And folks, as I recall, absolutely nothing happened. There were some people that had some old software, like word processor software on their computers. And they changed the date to make it work. They changed their date to something like 1905 or something like that, and it worked from then on. But then that soon got erased, and it was no big problem. Other thing is, in fact, there's a couple things. Every now and then you speak, and you shouldn't have spoken. Ken Olson, who's the founder and CEO of the Digital Equipment Corporation in 1977, said, there is no reason for any individual to have a computer in his home. And not only do we have computers in our homes, now we have them in our pockets, and in this case, as a watch. So, now, in fact, the computer that I bought back in 1990, when I was living in Kentucky, I still have. But this watch actually does more than that computer ever did. I loved it at the time. And then they will have no individual, and it wasn't very long after that people started having the earlier computers in their home. Then in 2019, Apple took out an ad that says, what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. Well, at the time, there was a FaceTime bug in it that when you called somebody on FaceTime, you could actually hear the audio of the people's phone before they picked up or they answered. So you could hear what they were saying. So you said, oh no, not Joe calling again, something like that. We've gotten all kinds of things like that here lately. It's not just Apple, it's Google. They said that there are ways that they can listen in on, I won't say your name, but the A word up there, that they can listen in. And then the smart TVs that we have, they can listen in. Supposedly on that, the Russians are trying to listen in on our private conversation on smart TVs. And then I also heard that the new vaccine they can use to track you. And all three of those things, I don't care. I mean, they can, whoever at Google wants to listen in on our conversations at home, go ahead. I mean, I don't care. I'm going to tell you now if you're listening. It doesn't make any difference to me, but a lot of people, I guess, you have stuff to hide. I mean, I don't care. They know where I go if they track me, stuff like that. From what I understand, if it's conspiracy theorists or if you believe, and some of them I think some of it's true, is that the government can track your emotions pretty well now anyway. So I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. There's so many location devices that we have. In 1949, Popular Mechanics said that computers in the future may weigh no more than 1.5 tons. They had some that did weigh that, but again, this isn't very heavy. Now, the last one that I looked at, it happened in the past. This one's kind of recent. Stefani Germanotta was a young lady in Germany who was singing and acting, and there was a group formed of people that hated her called Stefani Germanotta, You Will Never Be Famous. And they made a Facebook page about it. She is known today as Lady Gaga. One of the most famous actors, singers in the world today. So just because somebody says it doesn't make it true. It doesn't even make it plausible. And I want to look at that tonight and look at what Proverbs said and some other places in the Bible about the things that we say. In James 3 and verse 5, the Living Bible renders it, the tongue is a small thing, but what enormous damage it can do. And I think the problem is the way we use it. And I think the problem is the way that we treat it and the way that we use our words. Proverbs 15, verse 2, the tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools pours forth foolishness. Well, you need to understand that there's no point in planting tomato plants expecting to harvest lemons. I mean, if you're going to listen to someone who is wise, listen to someone who is wise. And if you're going to listen to someone who is foolish, then understand that's what you're doing. You're listening to someone who is foolish. And I'm going to go ahead and say something a little controversial. Right now, pay very little attention to what you hear on television in regards to political candidates. I'm going to go ahead and tell you whether or not they're fools or not. They're counting on you to be. Because they're gonna tell, and how do I know this? Because you're being lied to. Because people on both sides of a political office are going to tell you things about the other ones, so you'll vote for them. So you're gonna be lied to. As to how we can fix this in this country, I don't know. And I tell my kids this every day when the current issues almost, that we're dealing with the election along with the other things that we're dealing with. I tell them this, be very careful of what is said, and please do not ever believe anything because it is on Facebook. There are too many weird ads on Facebook, because on Facebook, anybody can say what they want to. Now, here's something that I want you to see. It's a story you know. But Peter and those who were with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were fully awake, they saw his glory and the two men who stood with him. Then it happened, as they were parting from him, that Peter said to Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah, not knowing what he said. Peter and Andrew, James, and John, I think it was Andrew there, I'm not really sure. They were on the Mount Transfiguration, and Jesus appears with Moses and Elijah to show that he is the continuation of the law and the prophets. That was it. Peter woke up and knew he had to say something, which was his first mistake. You don't have to say something all the time. I don't know why I'm here and not where I'm supposed to be. Sorry about that. Not knowing what he said. Now, here's the problem. Peter knew he had to say something. That was his first problem. His second idea was he said the wrong thing. He said the first thing that came to mind. He thought, oh, here's Jesus, and here's Moses and Elijah. And oddly enough, he knew them. Okay, I'm not sure how, but he knew who they were. So he said, I'm going to build 3 temples, 3 places to worship, 3 tabernacles for each of you. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Not knowing what he said. And there is something to be said for that. A lot of times we speak before we know what we're saying. As long as I'm talking, everything is okay. And that's not the right way to look at it. That is a misuse of our words. We should not, and it would be dangerous if we did, talk before we know what we're saying. Proverbs 18 and verse 21. Let me make sure I'm in the right place here. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now James, we're going to go to him a lot because this is a big theme in the book of James. 3 and verse 5, even so the tongue is a little member that boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature. It is set on fire by hell. How do you think James feels about it? It is set on fire by hell. And in James 3 and verse 9, with it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men, who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing, my brethren. These things ought not be so. There's a spring send forth fresh water, and bitter from the same opening. Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? There is no spring yields both salt water and fresh. You can't do both. And yet we try to. And we try to yield forth anger and bitterness, and yet after a while we want people to accept us to speak in sincerity and truth and kindness. It doesn't work that way. I put it a little bit simpler than that at school. I tell a child who has a filthy mouth, you kiss your mama with that mouth? And I don't want to hear that. I tell them. The heart of the righteous studies how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours forth evil. You don't have to speak as soon as somebody asks you, or you don't have to speak as soon as it's your turn. It's easy to open your mouth wide and allow all your thoughts to pour out, but it takes self-discipline and wisdom to speak words that matter and make a positive impact. I usually don't like to read the words that I put up there, but in this case, I think it's necessary. This is something that I believe this world needs to know more than anything else. We'll get to that more in a minute. Now, Jesus said when he was talking about the Old Testament food laws, he said, what comes out of a man, it is what comes out of a man that defiles a man. But from within, out of the heart of men proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, theft, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lewdness, and evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All these things have come from within and defile a man. And they come out of your mouth. You know, the Jews thought, the Jews felt, and they really, this was the law of Moses, but they had overemphasized that over the things that came out. It says, yes, of course, you should follow those food laws. You don't eat pork, you don't eat this, you don't eat that, catfish is out, all these kinds of things are out. So they were really very cautious about what they put into their bodies. But you know, even if you broke those laws, there were ways to purify yourself, and the ways to do that are even just simply wait and don't do it again, was mostly what they said. They were important, and they were important for a reason that we know now. Because the things that he said don't eat are the things that can easily carry disease without modern day preparation and modern day treatment and modern day processing. But in Jesus' day, in the law of Moses, in Moses' day, these were things they didn't know, and he kept the nation healthy. That was the only reason for those things. Secondly, they were very concerned about that, but then they would let all these things pour out. And this reveals too much. And folks, there's a lot about yourself that you don't want everybody to know. As in water, face reflects face, so a man's heart reveals the man. You look in a mirror, you see your face. Okay? And everybody uses them. Everybody uses them. I don't care if you say, I don't care how I look when I leave the house. It doesn't bother me what people think of me, how I look. Then why do you even have mirrors in your house, and why do you use them every day anyway? Yeah, we care. Just admit it. We do care. Now, in the same way, a man's heart reveals the man. In just the same way, your heart, and if you're stupid, and you just let everything fall out of your mouth, then everybody knows what your heart is. The heart of the wise teaches his mouth, and adds learning to his lips. Isaiah understood this idea, and he was thankful for it. The Lord God has given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him who is weary. He awakens me morning by morning. He awakens my ear to hear as the learned. Now, what Isaiah is saying is something that we need to know. We need to learn how to do this. When we speak, let's do our best to try to make things better instead of making things worse. Again, controversial. I don't think everything I see on television about political ads are right. I think most of them are meant to make things worse. I don't think much of it is meant to make things better. I have been tempted, I won't say any names, but I have been tempted that I've heard so many negative things about a certain candidate, I've tempted to vote for him instead of feel sorry for him. So many horrible things. You know, I'm tempted to vote for him because I feel sorry for him. No, it's not the presidential race, it's not the senatorial races here. But this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You're not going to make me vote for you by saying how horrible and what a scumbag your opponent is. If I don't want him, I don't want him, but I don't want you talking about it either. If he's that much of a scumbag, we're going to know it anyhow. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is worth little. And in Proverbs 16 and verse 24, pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. You see, the reason our words can be pleasant is because God's word teaches us to speak with a humble spirit and not to use unnecessary words. Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one. In Ephesians 4 verse 29, let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers. Again, in all four of these verses, 2 in Proverbs, 1 in Colossians, 1 in Ephesians, they're all saying this. When you speak so as to make things better. Speak so as to make things better. Don't speak so that you can be heard. Silence is fine. Don't fill it with stupid. Silence is fine. It doesn't demand words. Folks, not only will our words be more pleasant, we will know how to answer those who question us about our faith. Look at what Peter says. And this is so often misused in the Bible. But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, that when they defame you as evildoers, those who revile your good conduct in Christ may be ashamed. Make sure that your words are pleasant. Make sure you're one of those people who knows how to make things better when they speak. And then one thing will happen. First of all, people will listen to you. If they know they're going to feel better and they know that things are going to be better when you speak, they will listen to you. Number two, this will give you the opportunity to let them listen to you about the most important thing of all. That is why you are a Christian. Proverbs 17 and verse 28. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. When he shuts his lips, he is considered perceptive. We would be much better off to say the least we can instead of the most. Ecclesiastes 5 and verse 2, do not be rash with your mouth, and let not your heart utter anything hastily before God, for God is in heaven, and you on earth. Therefore let your words be few. You know why they're few? It's economics. If your words are few, they're much more valuable. If your words are few, they are much more valuable. Anything there's very few of in this world are valuable. People will look to you if you have something to say. Well, it must be important. They have something to say now. One of the best things that we can do to help is use our tongue wisely, to use it sparingly. Proverbs 17 and verse 27. He who has knowledge spares his words. Proverbs 10 and verse 19. In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his tongue, his lips, is wise. Folks, we're working on limiting what we say. Folks, we can greatly use our tongue, improve the use of our tongue, by learning to listen. You don't do that anymore. Nobody listens. I spoke to a group of kids in class one time, and I'm afraid that I should probably speak to a group of adults, many times several adults. This is not jungle rules conversation. It isn't he who speaks the most and the loudest wins. There's nothing to win. And folks, believe me, in churches in the past few years, several years, I have done more talking than listening, but you know you'll always learn more about listening than you ever will by talking. Why do you think whenever some preacher comes through our door and is going to be here the next time we speak, I would love to sit and listen? Why last, a couple of Sundays ago when we were in that weird vacation, Don and I were, why was I online listening? Why did I interrupt? Why did I interrupt? Because I can't learn when I'm talking. Not near all the learning that takes place for me takes place before I ever walk in here when I'm studying this stuff. And yeah, I learned a lot from doing this. And I learned a lot from doing this right here, but not near as much as I would learn if I could listen to what other people say. So we need to improve by listening. He who answers a matter before he hears it is folly and shame to him. It ticks me off so many times to say something, or to people, well, actually, for someone to ask me a question, and then for them not to even listen to the answer. If you're not going to listen to the answer, don't ask me a question. If you want to know what I say about something, don't ask me if you're not going to listen to the answer. If you're not going to listen, don't ask me, and I'll be quiet. Why in the world does somebody ask and then not listen? Happens all the time. We need to be people who will listen. James will also say in James 1:19, So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. I told you we do it wrong. I told you we do it wrong. We use our tongues wrongly. And here's what I'm going to tell you what that means. The words we use wrong. We think that we use our mouth the same way we use our mind. Now, when you use your mind, and we've talked about this, your thoughts. Oh, you need to control your thoughts. That's what the preachers have said. Yeah, but they have said that, but they've never really told you what that meant and how to do it. Control your thoughts. That means you keep from dwelling on things or keep from concentrating on things that are bad and keep going. You don't quit thinking. And folks, people say, well, then you quit. It's never going to happen again. No, you're going to think of it again. You're going to have to stop dwelling on that again. But folks, how are you going to know not to do the wrong thing if you have never thought about what the wrong thing might be? Your mind, your brain, your thoughts are supposed to go everywhere. They're supposed to go in all places. They're supposed to think about everything. In fact, you are supposed to think about the wrong thing because then you'll know not to do it. You don't ever put any limitations on your thoughts. They're yours, they're private, they can't be looked at. You don't ever put any limitations on them. If you're going to look at something and decide to do the right thing and the wrong thing, you have to look at the wrong thing and see what you have to do and see what the repercussions are and see how you have to do it and see what it means to do it. If you're going to look at the right thing, you have to do the same thing to it to make that decision. Don't ever fetter your thoughts. Now, this is what our country was founded on, a group of people who decided that's what they should do. They would put people in the stocks for a day or 2 or 3 days for what they thought they were thinking bad thoughts. I don't know how they would know, but they did. That's what the Pilgrims did, the Puritans, what they were called. We celebrate that every Thanksgiving, those people coming here. This is what kind of people they were. But now the point I'm trying to say is, your mind is supposed to go everywhere. Okay? That's what God meant for you to do, and that's why He gave it to you. But your speech. You see, it's like buying a house. You go and look at houses, and folks, I know that's my thing because I watch them all the time about buying the beach, renovation, and all this kind of stuff. People look at these houses, Dad and I'll watch it, and I'll say, that's the house I'd buy, and they don't buy the one I would. It makes me mad. But this couple the other night, they had this one big house on a sound, which is kind of a canal. Then they had one that was right on the beach. I mean, you looked out, the ocean was there. You had a little walkway down from your back porch onto the beach from there. I thought, if you're going to buy on the beach, buy on, and they didn't pick that one, they picked the other one. I thought, okay. But then the point I'm trying to make is this. You look around, you look at several houses. You might look at 3 houses, like they always do on the show. Or you might look at 30. No penalty. You can look at as many houses as you want. But then when you go to the closing attorney's office and you sign your name, that's the one you're going to pay for. Folks, in the same way, what you say is the same way. You can do all kinds of things in your mind. You can put all kinds of things and make all decisions you want in your mind. But when you say them, when your thoughts come out of your mouth, that's the end. You will pay for those because you've shared them with other people. This is the problem many times. This is the problem. I have known preachers that have made statements before that they wish they could take back because they will be forever known by that statement. I've known people before that they wish they'd never said what they said because that's what they'll ever know. And I can prove it with each and every one of you. How many of you have ever said something and wished you'd never said it? And wished for the rest of your life you'd never said it? See, that's the thing. We try to use, and nobody ever tells you this, and but God always did. Nobody ever tells you this, but you get to decide before the words come out of your mouth. There are some words that you can say that mean a great deal. There's some words you can say that mean a great deal, but you got to wait and measure them. And there's also a way, if somebody is pressing you to say something right now, why not just admit the truth? 3 simple words. I don't know. Let me think about it. Don't make me decide right now. In fact, I had a young man tell me this not long ago. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Tell me right now. What are you going to do? I said, you don't want me to decide right now because you won't like what I decide. You better let me wait. You better wait and let me decide. I say that a lot. Folks, you don't have to come out with it right now. It can wait because, folks, once words are spoken, they are forever. You say, I thought that was what was written. Yeah. It just underscores forever. But I think sometimes spoken words are worse because people can take that out of reference, people take that out of context and make you say all kinds of things. Once words are spoken, they are forever. What do we do with our words? How dangerous are they? Look at these firemen. And not to be outdone, we in southeast Georgia, folks, oh, come on, act like you don't believe it. This happens every day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That happens to people.
Have I ever done it? Yes. Have I, with a fire going out there, poured gas on it? Yes. But I get a glass container that's not near that big, and I get as far away as I can and flick it over there. Is that dangerous? A little. But not near as dangerous as taking a 5-gallon can of gas and pouring on top of the thing. And this can, I've had to pick my picture very, very carefully because there's a lot where people actually died doing this. And a lot where people actually were injured badly doing this.
Right.
This guy, I honestly believe, the way I look at this one, I think this is staged for the camera. I don't think he actually did it. But there are people that do it. They think that you can do it. And a lot of times, well, look at Proverbs 29, verse 11. A fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back. Proverbs 15 and verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Many times, if you speak, the things you say can actually make things horribly worse. Can actually make things horribly worse. And I believe that there are people that have a gift for this. And some people can, and I've known them in my life, and I won't say they are because I don't want to use my words badly either. But they have a gift for picking the exact worst thing to say at the worst possible time. Now, like I told you before, if you forget everything else about tonight, remember that. Choose your words carefully. Don't use your words like you use your thoughts. Let your thoughts go wild. Let them go everywhere. But your words, your actions, be very careful of those because once they're done, that's forever. Now, here's the problem with all of that. What about when you're angry? What about when you're angry? What do you do when you're mad? Oh, I can't help that. The things I say are just going to be mad. Then shut up.
Just answer.
Okay. Psalms, David will say, be angry, but sin not. And sin not. Be angry, do not sin. Meditate within your heart on your bed and be still. Folks, angry is not a bad thing. Anger is given to us by God. We're all made to have it. And in fact, it's a very valuable tool. Anger is what has made every change for good in this life and in this world. People were angry that we talked about this reason I'm talking about, we talked about it this week. This was our week. People were angry, including President Kennedy, that the Soviet Union made it in space before we did, because they never make all our bombs obsolete if they could go up there before we could. So he got angry, and he got the country angry. And we got so angry that within 9 years, we put a man on the moon. And because we had to do it, and we were so angry that we had to do it, and we were so angry that we had to get to the moon, we poured all kinds of resources, money, talent, people into that space race. You would not believe the things that we use every day that came out of that. It was one of the most constructive times in American history. We came up with, invented, and innovated more things during that time than other times. Most productive time the United States has ever had. Anger led Martin Luther King to do what he did. But you know what Martin Luther King said? He said, don't do violence. Non-violent. He didn't come up with it. Gandhi did. A little lawyer in India that wanted to get rid of oppression. And so he, non-violent, opposition. He got angry. Folks, if you accomplish anything, you can call it anything you want. It's anger that got you started. It's anger that made you change something. You can say dissatisfaction as something. You can say, I wasn't satisfied with the way it was going. So any change you've made in your life, you've made because of anger. You became a Christian because you were angry at a life of sin. You were mad that you'd made those horrible choices. Anger is not a bad thing. Uncontrolled anger is dangerous. Words spoken in anger are stupid. Because I don't have control of things when I say, yes, you do. You may not be able to say the right thing, but you can put those magic two words together. You can shut up. You can shut up every time at school, and every time even in the world that somebody gets angry, pops off with profanity or a cuss word. They tell me, can't help it when I'm angry. Yes, you can. Because what you say when you can't control your speech are the exact same things you said when you could control your speech. And if you come out with a nasty word, or you come out with a cuss word when you're angry, that's because you use that word when you're not angry. It's a pattern of speech. The reason I know this, and I can prove it right now, is, folks, you didn't say a bad word and invent it at the same time. Okay? You didn't invent that nasty word for that occasion. Didn't happen. You've said it before. Don't tell me I can't help it when I'm angry. Yes, you could. The time you could have helped it was a long time before. And folks, I'm telling you this because I had to work on it myself. You keep that kind of speech out of your mouth all the time, and it's not going to come out when you're angry. Why? Because that's not your pattern of speech. That's not your habit. Folks, when you become angry, look at what it says in orange. When you become angry, you can use it to motivate you to change something. When you become angry, that's a good thing. That's part of being human. That's something God gave us. It's not something to be denied. Ask yourself, why am I angry? What can I do to fix it? The answer might be nothing. The answer might be stay away from that person or that thing or whatever it is. But what can I do to fix it? Because see, before you speak or take action about that, meditate on it. That just simply means think about it. It has nothing to do with wearing robes and sitting in a lotus position and candles and incense. Think about it. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? Might take us a few minutes, take control of emotions, and be able to respond the appropriate way. It might take us several days. It might take years. It might take months. It might take, but let it take time. Because when you speak out of anger, 9,000 times out of 9,001, you will say something stupid. And you can never take it back. Let it take time. The more we improve with our speech, the less heated arguments we're ever going to have with others, which will make us more effective at reaching loss, which is what we're in business for anyway. Be people who use their speech like every other gift of God that we have, righteously and well. Don't be people that just simply throw away our words like they don't mean anything. They do. They're very valuable. Words can hurt. Words can hurt. And words can kill. I've seen people die because of the words they spoke, and I've seen people die because of words other people have spoken. Well, seen, but known of it. And you have too. Several years ago, Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote a poem about the war in the Balkans. The British weren't doing very well. I can't remember who they were fighting. The British Empire fought so many people. You know it as a heroic mission. It was a big, huge, colossal blunder made by a guy who said something in anger and hatred that he shouldn't have said. Picture it. There's a long canyon. At the top, the enemy has several cannon emplacements all along the top. The fortress is at the end of the canyon. The British troops at the beginning of the canyon. How are they going to take it? There are many plans, and folks, you can take it. The dumbest thing you can do is to march your men down that canyon. Can't remember his name, can't remember any man's name, either man's name. One man was in charge of a brigade of cavalry. His brother-in-law, who hated him, was the adjutant to the command. He asked his brother-in-law, because it is his duty. He's the guy that tells the word of the commander. He said, how are we going to take that fortress? How are we going to take that stronghold? And he popped off something hateful and mean. Well, you're going to take your cavalry down the canyon. He thought that's what the commander said. And he did it. He made it all the way to the fortress with what few men he had left. He could not get in, so then had to lead his men, dying in the process, all the way back up. One of the biggest losses the British had. There are two kinds of cavalry brigades in the British Army at that time. One was called the Heavy Brigade. They were ones that traveled slower and carried cannon. The ones that were faster, that had no arms really except for their rifles and their swords and their pistols, were called the Light Brigade. You remember that in school? The charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Cannons to the right of me, cannons to the left of me. That huge, tremendous loss of life was was caused by a single phrase spoken lightly in hatred and anger, and hundreds of men died. Same thing happens every day. Now, what they did was, there was a tremendous loss of life, but luckily it happened many thousands of miles away from London. So they got Tennyson to put a positive spin on it and make these men heroes, and not the fact that they died for something stupid spoken in jest. And he wrote that poem as a recruiting poem. Young men came and joined both the heavy and the light brigades. But that's the story behind the poem. That's the story behind that battle. The British eventually did win that war. The person named their big time back to life. So what should you do? Improve your relationships. I don't know about that. I don't myself. I myself here. Avoid foolish and ignorant disputes, knowing that these they generate strife. And the servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but be gentle to all, able to teach, patient, in humility, correcting those who are in opposition. If God perhaps will grant them repentance, so that they may know the truth, and that they may come to their senses and escape the snare of the devil, having been taken captive by him through his will. Foolish and ignorant disputes, these don't help anything. They only generate strife. Servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but be gentle to all, teach, be patient. In humility, correcting those who are in opposition. Folks, I have absolutely had people who hated me before, and I can promise you this: they've never heard not one word I've preached, even though I showed the truth. If you get involved in foolish and ignorant disputes, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. One of the first things I was told as a preacher, I didn't believe it. When I was in school. Don't enter into the silly things that people are engaged in. Let them work it out. It didn't take me long to learn that guy was right. Folks, if it's none of your business, be quiet. I don't care if you have an opinion. Folks, you're supposed to have an opinion. You're supposed to have an opinion. That's how your thoughts work. But you don't say it. You don't say it. I don't like the reference, but it is true. As a superintendent one time in school said, well, I'm not going to get into it because I ain't got no dog in this fight. Folks, if it doesn't occur to you, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't pertain to you, stay out of it. Stay out of it. It's something that Lanier used to do. I hope they still do. Every classroom had an MYOB poster in it. It meant mind your own business. If it doesn't affect you, yes, your mind works, you're going to have an opinion. You don't have to say it. You don't have to speak it. It bothers me. It bothers me. And I'm going to get a little controversial right now, but it's not because on any political candidate, on account of everyone. Folks, you know who needs to be president in January. The bill elect in November. I know who needs to be president. Okay? Don't bring that garbage in the church. Thank you. You will never see me or anyone in this church, and I will quit if it ever happens. And it happens all around us, folks. It happens all around us. You will never see me or anyone in this church, and I better not see it, or else when we go to the next sermon, it's going to be about to get stopped. Handing out cards in church to tell you who to vote for, or printing out something to tell you who to vote for. Keep that garbage home. If you have political opinions, you should have political opinions. I think that we're a part of the greatest country on the face of this earth. Dad and I were talking. He said, I'm sick of all this fussing and fighting happened during the impeachment hearings and stuff like that. All these horrible things being said by politicians and back and forth. Folks, that's exactly what your founding fathers wanted to happen. That's exactly what they want to happen. But it doesn't belong in the church. That's how America gets done. Everybody has opinions. Everybody has opinions. And they're great. And they're fantastic. And that's what you ought to do. You ought to go, or in this case, stay home and vote. Don't tell anybody who you voted for, but you ought to stay home and vote because that's your opinion. And that's why it's the greatest country that's ever been on the face of this earth, is because it is a republic. And if we don't start voting, I don't care who we are, if we don't start voting, we're going to lose our republic. But leave that stuff out of our churches. Democrats and Republicans should be able to sit together in worship peacefully and love each other as Christian brethren, and then go off to their voting places and vote the way they should. And they should never, ever, ever campaign politically in churches. And I know just because it's done in just about every house of worship today doesn't mean that it should be done. Those are foolish and ignorant disputes. And it's something I told Aaron after President Trump was elected. Let's go back to. Doesn't matter who you want to be president, doesn't matter who you voted for, doesn't matter who actually becomes president, ain't nothing going to change in LOL. We're going to still pay taxes. We're going to still have the same roads. We're going to still go to the same school. Okay? President Trump has brought us $1 more worth, which is handy to have. Okay, that's the only difference I've seen. Leave all that stuff at the door of our churches. And folks, I'm not even saying you shouldn't be active in politics. I think Christians ought to run for office. I think that's a good idea. I've supported Christians to run for office. I think Christians ought to be very, very active politically. I think they should be a part. Maybe make contributions to people you really believe in. It should be a part of our country. Go ahead and go door to door and campaign and work booths and all that kind of stuff and voter registration drives. I think it's great, but you don't bring that garbage into church. You don't bring that into church because it's valuable outside and it's valuable when you're participating in the American experience. It is worse than dangerous when you bring it into religion. There is no such thing, none, as the Christian choice in politics. Make that clear. There's no such thing, especially in this country where we're guaranteed the separation of church and state. There's no such thing as the Christian choice in politics. Doesn't happen. You're not going to find one candidate that's going to advance. I'm talking about for any office, from president all the way down to dog catcher. You're not going to find any candidate that's going to advance a truly Christian agenda. You want to talk politics outside of here, that's fine. I'm not talking about it from our pulpits. I'm not talking about it from our only stand here. I'm not talking about it in church. It's not happening. That's foolish and ignorant and empty disputes. So what should we do? Folks, I believe that our nation, our country, our churches, our families are built on relationships. Improve your relationships with others. And how do you do it? By what you say. By what you say. That's how you interact with others. That's how you interact with others. And you know something? When you're talking, you're keeping somebody else from saying something that might be very, very valuable. The more everyone in our churches, in our society, learns to use the tongues wisely, the more love, peace, and comfort there will be. The happier this world will be if we will use our tongues sparingly. Is it true? Is it godly? And is it kind? That should be the gates that anything we say passes through. And if you forget everything else about what I've said, remember this. Two things. Keep calm and shut up. Speak, folks, when you have something to say. Speak when you have something wise, something kind, something compassionate, and above all, something that will help. Something that will make things better. By all means, for God's sake, speak then. Your thoughts and your words are not the same. They're not to be used the same. Your thoughts are meant to go everywhere. Your words penalize you when you use them. For any reason, you stand in need, respond words of invitation when you come. So,
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my will and make it thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own. It shall be thy royal throne. Take my life, my Lord, I pour. At thy feet is treasure stored. Take myself and I will be ever only all for thee.
Quickly. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for the privilege we've had twice this day to be in your house. Hear your word and sing songs of praise to you. Lord, let us take this lesson week here this afternoon without running our mouth, saying things we shouldn't. And like he said, if you ain't got something good to say, keep your mouth shut. Lord, we ask you to be with our friends. Be with me. May you be back with us soon. We ask you, Heavenly Father, to be with others away from us, our friends and neighbors. Be with them and keep them safe where they be at home this afternoon. We ask you to be with our loved ones. May they have a good afternoon. We ask you to go with us now as we leave from here and never from your side, Heavenly Father. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, we didn't have our business meeting this morning, so my fault. Kim had her stuff ready. I didn't forget all about it. By the time she told me about it, or she mentioned it, it was too late for me to go and print it off. I have it all typed up. I just forgot to print it and bring it. So
Well, there was two things I wanted to mention. The bathrooms are still acting up. Does anybody have a plumber? Do you call a plumber for something like that
I would think,
outside?
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody know anybody that reputation?
well, I'm sure it's the house call from Texas is gonna be expensive.
But if anybody has some suggestions as far as that, because it's probably something that we hadn't been able to figure out, so.
I think we need to
Over
put a bigger
30 years. We have to
I dug down there, I found the pipe
you can
and
show you where it
everything, but I
is.
never found it. Huh?
I'll show you where it is.
You told me, but I dug all that, and I found it.
You didn't dig where it is. It's at the end of the flower bed, at the end of the cross
I
tile,
dug all
right
that up.
beside it.
I dug all that up, and I did too. What I dug out to dig, I put on top of that hole where I dug out, real good.
That's
I
where-
cannot find it.
That's where it is.
We need to take a,
Well, I dug at it, I got tired, I'll dig it again.
It's okay. I mean, that's where I found it the last time, but it's been years. But the thing is, we need to go ahead and find it and put something on it so we know where it is, and we can turn it off so we can use it.
do you believe somebody needs to come and check it out besides
Well, let's see.
us?
Us have been working on it for the last 30 years. And us ain't got it done.
Well,
So I think us need to get a bigger drain line going out there where the elbows come in from forward and get rid of the 90-degree turns.
I
I
think-
guess it's killing me.
I think the us thing, I think your idea sounds plausible, and I guarantee if we did it, it would work for a while. However, I am pretty close to what Kim is saying.
I just want
We
to.
have done,
We need an expert.
we have done these things that sound good for so many years, and it has never worked, and it may well be that there is nothing we can do because of the fact, and I've known other churches with this problem, is that we don't flush our toilets every day. We might be able to get, one that will, on a timer.
Flush
Yeah.
all the time?
Oh, you wouldn't believe what toilets can do nowadays.
You flush
You can make her,
Mhm.
you can buy a faucet that'll turn on water and only fill it a certain amount. You like fill up your dog water, you empty it, put it in there, and tell her to fill up the dog bowl, and to put exactly enough cold water in it. They're wireless faucets, and I can't help but believe that they're wireless faucets. How much of a stretch is it for it to be a wireless toilet? Now, we don't flush them every day or twice a day like you do in your home. What happens, folks, with paper is if it don't go all the way, it dries and makes a place for, and it can, and sometimes it won't, sometimes it gets wet again. It'll go on down, but sometimes it makes a rock.
Makes a little dam in the middle of it.
Yeah, it makes a rock, and that may be part of the problem. It may also be that we don't have a steep enough grade to the septic tank, or that it's too steep. You can't make it too steep. This is gross, but, and this was the problem I had in Kentucky, because I had a second floor toilet. And of course all they did was they put a vertical pipe in there, you flushed it and down it goes. The water will leave the other stuff that's not water, not liquid, behind if you have it too fast. The Romans figured that out, by the way, in the aqueducts, when you couldn't have it going too steep either. You know, you can have it go, it's a certain grade it has to be. As to what that is, the people at the Ellisville Church of Christ at the moment do not know, although we should look it up on the internet. But we have no equipment to make it do that,
And it's ashes a 2-inch drop every 8 feet.
which we have absolutely no
No way
Equipment.
of doing it.
of doing it. So the thing is, now we've already spent about $3,000 on the other side of the septic tank in the drain field. I imagine that works quite well. But we may need to spend a little bit on this side of it to make sure it works
Okay,
well.
so my mission is to find a plumber.
I got the solution for it.
You
They
got
do it.
time.
I ain't got time. I know how to do it. You come out the line, come out with a little bit bigger pipe. You got these little wild pipes. You come out with a pipe, put on a little wire on it. One toilet goes to that part of the line. Another one keeps on going back, another wire, another toilet goes to that line, and so forth and so on.
You're
And
probably,
every one of them has got.
you're probably right, or not. And we have absolutely no way of knowing, and we could schedule a work day, and Charles could bring his little tractor like we've done before. We could dig all that up and replace it and still have the same problem in a year
Well,
or
I
two.
vote, let's
I had
get
problems
somebody that
with-
may have some more experience at
If I can,
the food thing.
if I can remember, Howard, well, what I was gonna offer to do is, and this is actually a little bit better than Howard. I'm gonna call my, I have those 2 houses in Statesboro, and folks, if you have rental houses, you need a rental agent. They don't know who I am, my tenants, I just get a check, okay? If there's something goes wrong, they don't call me, they call them. They have plumbers that are gonna get whatever is not, and I will ask them to recommend me 2 or 3 that they use. And if they're a rental agency, the plumbers are gonna be the cheapest that there are. Okay, I'll call Property Mart tomorrow and see who I can get. And I will keep in touch with you so you can pay them.
Yeah, I could do it over the phone.
Okay,
It's not a problem.
Capability.
So- I mean, I've already told you who will come by and fix your well quickly and as cheap as you can do it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
See what the problem is, we did all that work on the walls and all, if it keeps doing this, it's gonna mess up all that we
Well,
replaced.
I'm worried about the wall, but I'm really worried about the floors.
Well,
The tiles gonna come
Oh,
out. And that thing we did with, and I don't wanna talk bad about him because he's passed away, but Richard Stocking, next brother came up and put wood under the toilets. That didn't work with nothing.
well, they've changed all the times after.
What I'm saying is they put one by twos under the toilet to get them up off the ground and it didn't work with nothing. So I'm agreeing with you because I think we've probably gone, you know what might help?
Go.
Well, it's not just Joe, we've all done it. I mean, I have too. But, you know,
We'll have to fight the
we
bullet.
have approached that for the last 30 years with the, hey, y'all watch this mindset.
Let's quit throwing gas
You know,
on it.
I'm good at throwing gas.
I'm not criticizing Joe because we've all done the same thing, men and women here, we've all offered suggestions.
It worked for a while.
And it works for a year or two, sometimes 5, and then it always comes back. Folks, it might be something just as easy as, and I thought about this the other day. What if there's a hole in that line and the roots and bushes are done in it?
That's gonna cost.
You know,
Cause
But
it-
it's leaking right there in that one spot, that's still a good probability of holding on.
Them
So I'm
flower
thinking-
bushes like that
and
close.
Yeah.
we have dug that up and gotten pine tree roots out of that pipe before. That's the weirdest thing. They'll grow exactly the shape of that pipe
Mhm.
for
They will
years.
fill with money.
There'll be a little hole about that big. You know, where it goes into the pipe, and it'll be just as big as the pipe in there, and there's no water.
It's got water, it's got nutrients, it's happy.
Yeah,
Got plenty for.
so it's going to, so, I mean, it could be that, it could be something that simple. And I've seen it, it's a solid pipe, we make sure of it, but after a time of heat, which we have plenty of, and some dry, that pipe will rot, dry rot, and you'll get a crack in it, and all it takes is a crack. It may well be we can get rid of those bushes back there,
Good to-
because that is not the beauty spot of this building anyway. And we could plant a flower bed there instead, the roots don't go down.
That's the hedges, yeah.
Might be need to get rid of that.
Will
At least
bleach kill
get
it?
it in.
What?
The
No.
roots. If you put enough bleach in there, will it kill it? I can get bleach free.
Oh, no, let's not.
No.
Throw salt on it, sorry.
No.
No.
Pull them out.
Bleach and salt will both kill the roots, but they will also kill the bacteria in the tank that's working to break down the waste and put it in the drain field.
Okay.
If you have a septic tank, we were talking about this, Don and I were this morning, 'cause we have, well, it's another problem, but if you put, if you put bleach in your septic tank,
I read
you
that.
you need to put more Red X. Because it ruins that's how septic tanks
The
work,
pH,
it's off
There's
bacteria.
a pH.
And yeah, but it messes with the pH, lowers it or raises it, or salt. You can get rid, now what's his name said, they put it in drain fields. To take care of roots. Instead of, you get something that's like Rid-X or something like that, but it needs to have one ingredient in it, and you'll never smell the root. Copper.
What?
Copper. It won't mess with the bacteria and it'll keep the roots out of the drain field. Is what he was telling me. He told me that 100 times while he was out here digging. What's his name? Dallas, his name is.
Dallas.
If you put copper down it, that's the guy Evan found to fix these drain fields. You put copper down your toilet a couple times a year, you'll keep roots out of it. The problem is you never remember because you never look down the septic tank all that much.
Until something happens.
So we had trouble when Mother was alive. She got it in her mind that she had to throw away a bunch of toilet paper. And she constantly would flush it down and it would make, and when it goes out in our yard to our septic tank, there's a turn.
A lot of food.
Luckily, I know exactly where that washout valve is, and you can put a hose down there, eventually it'll come right out. But again, they really believe all the stuff that comes as soon as it. But That's all I know. And I'm thinking the plumber idea, fix it once and for all. However, it may well be expensive.
How,
Don't know. It depends on, we can get an estimate beforehand, but I'm gonna get.
how will they know what's wrong with it?
They'll tell us.
Yeah.
They have equipment, they can look under the ground, they have equipment, they can look in the pipe, they have equipment, they can.
And the cameras.
Yeah. So, I mean, they'll tell us it may be expensive, it may require it being dug out, and I don't wanna get a professional here to find out what he says, and then us do it, to cheat him,
No,
you know, so, you know, it's, if he says, well, y'all can do it, or I can do it, and it'll cost me $2,000, I'll do that, or I do it, whatever, you know, I'm making up a number. And then we can do it cheaper, but folks, let's face it, all of us that usually do stuff like that, we're all getting kind of old. Okay? Now, I would imagine that pipe has been down there so long, I would imagine that pipe has been down there so long,
Yeah, for building out here, hands.
that if you touch it
What a break.
with a shovel, you're gonna crack.
and it's.
So you saying let me get out there with a shovel, we're definitely gonna replace pipes.
If you get out there with a shovel, you're probably gonna have no sewer and no water by the
Yeah,
time we
That's true.
get it done.
You'll be miserable.
But Kelly have been, I don't know if y'all been around long enough, but when Joe takes a shovel to the ground
Oh,
out
yeah.
here,
It's gone.
he breaks a pipe. There's always a fountain.
He's a riding rod. He finds water wherever he goes. In your middle of your yard.
Okay, here's the story, we're gonna quit. Okay, this is it now. You know, in my fence posts, those metal fence posts. Okay, Joe was putting up my fence out there. They're 8 feet apart. What are the odds
Need a 1-inch pipe.
that you're gonna find a pipe running through that yard with that little iron, I mean, what, it's gotta be 1,000,000 to 1. Okay? Joe was driving that thing down. I mean, it was crossing through there, but in that whole line, what are the odds? He was driving that down, all of a sudden the big geyser of water came up. And so then me, you, Olin, and I think Kim, and can't remember who else. We got shovels and had to expose that pipe. And then luckily, I learned that day is something I never heard of before. I thought you had to do the sleeve and the thing in between. The pressure coupling is a lot easier. You slide it on one pipe, you slide it, and then slide it back, or it covers both pipes, and you twist it down. I never knew that existed. I'm so glad I found that out that day, because that's helped me many times since.
Yeah, I busted many of them since.
Well, I've busted a few around here myself. And then Charles was running something out here, and I can't remember what it was, but up came all of his copper pipe in a big bouquet. I don't know what it was all about. We don't know where it went. We just threw it away, and that was the end of it. But, well, the thing is, we used to get our water from this house here. Okay, well, not us, but the store that used to be, you get our water here. We got it from across the road, over here at this house that used to be a bar. And we got it from the church building over there, because the church building was sold as a church building as long as they would continue to supply water to this property. This property, that one, and stuff. And there's all kinds of pipe running through everywhere around here.
We got water in them.
And some of them do, some of them may have water in them since Moses was a baby, but you know, they're there. So, you know, the point I'm trying to make is this. I mean, it's not completely Joe's fault, although it does seem to happen to him now. That he gets water. Okay, having said all of that, a professional may actually cost a lot, but I think after 30 years, it's time for us to wave the white flag.
Thank you. Have a third, anybody a third?
You probably are,
I
but
believe a bigger pipe, it's 2 vials, 1 vial actually. One for the ladies' room, one for the.
if you have a bigger pipe though, and here's the
You
problem
still gotta
with a
get
bigger pipe.
elevation right.
If you have a bigger pipe, you're gonna need much more water to flush it out. Which is the problem I think we have now, that we don't have enough water going down.
We have the energy saving pumps, which has less water in it.
So, and the less water that goes down there, the less water we have to flush it out.
Yeah.
the saving grace for our house and maybe for anybody else, especially if you have a septic tank, is to have a washing machine.
Yeah.
Go down there and wash all that out, because you're putting a whole bunch of water washing it down. Dishwasher, mainly a washing machine. Bathtub, nobody takes baths. Everybody showers, so it doesn't go in, but see, what'll get it out more than anything else is that huge amount of water going all at once from a washing machine.
Another thing, the ladies' luncheon is coming up in 9 weeks.
Oh, yeah, what?
The first,
Ladies luncheon.
yeah, so, I know all the hoo-ha going on around, but I assume you're still gonna do something. I would like to.
Maybe you could have a contest of the lady that has the most decorative facial mask.
That'd be.
Oh, we still didn't hear you. Of what?
Decorative facial mask.
Yeah, instead of the ugly sweater, let's have the most ugly facial,
Oh, you say that, they would show the ones that light up. You know?
I'm not coming around that day.
Yes, you will, because there's always free food. So I know you'll be here.
And we usually just,
That's two things you like more than anything else, Charles. Food and free.
What?
Free.
Yeah, I agree with that.
well, we usually do something like last year, we collected supplies for us and we needed it. And you know, it's got us through the whole year. It really did. So it saved the church probably $300 to $400 by us doing that.
So canned goods.
No,
No,
paper
church
goods.
supplies.
Oh, paper stuff.
Yeah, toilet
Okay.
paper,
Plates,
plates,
cups.
yeah.
Nothing says Merry Christmas like toilet paper.
Well, hey, we can make a tree out of it. But, y'all think about some ideas, we still have a little time, so, but,
Yeah, it's coming up. Thanksgiving's coming up.
yeah.
Halloween's coming up. I don't know where the decorations are. You ready to leave?
I'm ready.
Well, the rest of us are
Oh,
talking.
speaking of Charles trying to leave, those metal lights. There's the scrap from these, do you want that, or
They're all back there by that building.
do you want it?
Oh, I'll get them, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, just
They're all
leave it.
metal except for the reflectors.
I got you. I got the big trash can I put
Well,
down in.
I just,
They, once a week, they pick it up.
I put it against the building, all of
I
that,
get it.
back there.
Thank you.
All right, we can go. Charles is ready to go home.
He don't like us.
I got borrow your tractor, Charles.
If you ain't got a tractor, you're in bad shape.
No,
I
Joe,
don't got one.
Drop your house and mine.
I would love to
I learned the hard way.
Oh, he loves his
Actually, I
tractor.
borrowed your tractor before.
I like a tractor too.
I have borrowed your tractor.
Risky, now help me
Well,
with
I would,
decorations.
so it had-
Help me
You
with
probably have.
decorations.